So there's no denying this is back to a lower effort format where I just sort of explain my current thoughts on something, which is kind of why I started doing this, why a lot of people start doing this, is it feels like the sort of, marketplace of ideas uh, can only be reached via social media these days, which is, it is what it is. It's not all bad. Um, but a lot has been going on, and pretty much every political action undertaken by the current administration has upset me. I'm far from alone in that. But the thing that really viscerally got to me most recently, which probably the thing that should get to me most, is people's right to due process being violated. But it's that they're selling off huge tracts of national forest land. And admittedly, it's because I am kind of a tree hugger, but it's also because I have the ability to, extrapolate out into the future um, what might happen if a particular course of action is taken. I don't have a crystal ball, but I do have a computer and the ability to read. And I have, taken in the sort of opinions and facts of experts and amateurs alike over the years, and read a great deal of history and concluded that things like that are frequently irreversible, and very much in a bad way. Not always. In fact, there are some places in the US and in Europe where reforestation has happened, where land that was previously either inhabited or more frequently used for agriculture has been allowed to sort of return to its natural ecosystem. And, in turn, a lot of the reason for that is the Green Revolution, which Green Revolution, depending on what you know about it, isn't necessarily what you might think based on those words, right? It's how in the course of the 1950s and 60s, people figured out how to use chemical fertilizers and pesticides and herbicides and things like that to massively increase crop yields. And there's been a lot of bad downstream effects of that. But over the last few decades, we've figured out a lot of clever techniques to sort of retain the higher yields of the Green Revolution whilst mitigating the negative effects, placing all those things into the environment, especially into the water table. That being said, there's still a lot of issues. The whole Silent Spring thing is no joke, and currently we're facing a tremendous problem that's a lot harder to call attention to, which is that insect populations are tanking, right? Which, most insects are not, necessarily things that we like to have a lot of around, but they are very important. Some of them are, right? Everybody likes, butterflies and other, sort of, visually appealing insects, and more importantly, we tend to like insects that don't sting, don't bite, and that don't eat human food. But even the insects that do all those things are very, very important. And also, that I kind of have a tinfoil hat theory that the reason for the Silent Spring, more than any other, don't get me wrong, Silent Spring is a science communication book. It's not like a paper, but they're fundamentally saying that the pesticides were killing the birds, and they are correct. However, I kind of have a tinfoil hat theory that the much more significant effect is just that pesticides are effective, and a lot of birds are insectivores. So if you kill the insects, even if you don't kill the birds directly, if you kill the thing they eat, they are going to also die in short order. I'm sure that has been studied, though, and I'm not contesting at all that pesticides directly kill birds. They do, just not as much as they used to. But we have been slowly but surely coming around to the fact that we need to maintain healthy insect populations too. And I don't know. I am by training a physicist, not a biologist of any sort. But I'm somebody that loves and appreciates nature. That's what compelled me to be a scientist in the first place. I, as a kid, would probably not have guessed myself for physics. I probably would have guessed I would do biology, or the closest thing to physics would have been astronomy. But I don't know. I love understanding the universe that we live in, and I don't know, like, there's always a need to balance using nature for human benefit with preserving it for future human benefit, as well as for just its own intrinsic value. And some of that benefit is just the sort of enjoyment we get from experiencing it, just things like recreation. But the much more significant thing is that, we live on this planet, and as much as we like to think we are the masters of all things on it, we're not. We're very clever. We do a lot of great work, I think. I'm generally supportive of agricultural civilization as a tremendous beneficiary of it, and I think technology is fundamentally good, but there's no denying that a lot of things have gotten out of hand, and more often than not, it's not because some, technology comes online and it gets misused. Well, it is, but it's not just the technology. It's that we always have a choice in how we want to use technology. For that matter, we also have a choice in what technologies we want to put our efforts into developing. Right? Like there's that. I think it's a sketch by those the two British guys where the scientist builds the giant destructor laser cannon, and he's like, "No, the giant destructor laser cannon was meant to help mankind, not to destroy." So there's things like that. But by and large, which I don't know. I am trying to kind of get back to a project that I've had in the back of my head for a long time to work on aquaculture, because a lot of aquaculture systems are highly problematic. The most successful things which are the ones that I kind of want to build on, are essentially just, fish stocking, right? Just, having, nurseries where they do essentially just, captive breeding, which, remember, that's very different for fish because, they don't, do the, middle school hee thing, right? Everything just goes into the water, right? But nevertheless, keeping fish in tanks, and, creating juveniles there, raising them to a size where they're more likely to survive, and then releasing them out either into more often. That's of course, fish stocking is very frequently used for bodies of fresh water because they're sort of contained, and fish stocks are a lot easier to manage. But there are also a lot of programs that will breed fish in onshore facilities, and then when they get to sort of larger juvenile size, they'll move them to like an aquaculture pen for a little while, and then when they're getting close to maturity, they'll release them out into the ocean. There's especially in SoCal here, where we have a lot of sport fishing and some amount of commercial fishing. And there's not a whole lot of primary production, by which I mean, sort of algae growth, right? Because everything, we can't eat sunlight, but plants, your algae can, right? So algae eat the sunlight, and then zooplankton eat the phytoplankton, and then, other things eat eat the phytoplankton and the zooplankton, and so on. It's recall the high school biology, food web, or that goes all the way back to like elementary school. But anyways, I don't know. I have wanted for a long time to work on a project to essentially do open ocean aquaculture that is unpenned, and instead of again, those captive breeding programs I think are tremendously successful, and I wholeheartedly support continuing them, and in fact even giving them more funding and doing more of them. But I would like to sort of try a project to essentially create artificial floating reefs, because it is well known that, and this is also not a new idea, by the way, it is well known that if you sort of just make a floating thing out in the ocean, fish will naturally school around it, and juveniles will sort of weave their way in and try to find areas where they can stay protected, and then, adults will sort of poke around looking for food. And, you know, there's lots of traditional fishing techniques going back through all of human history. Well, somebody will, you know, take a raft, you know, pull, you know, bring it out into the water and either anchor, you know, either in shallow water, just anchor it, or in, you know, open water, just kind of, you know, float out there with it and just, you know, kind of fish off of that, because the fish will naturally school around it. And there are modern systems that, you know, have different sort of, you know, acoustic techniques to attract fish and different other things. But I'm particularly interested in building something that would serve as a combined sort of, you know, nursery, shelter, and research platform to hopefully boost fish stocks. So I am trying to work on that over the summer. I'm trying to also do videos. I'm not sure what I'll spend more time on. I also really should probably do prep work for the actual semester. You know, I can kind of wait until about a month before the semester to really get started on that. In fact, it's better to kind of have it fresh in your mind. But I should start, you know, laying out an outline and stuff pretty soon. But I'll be only more intensively working on that probably at the start of August. But that gives me, you know, all of July plus the rest of June to pretty much just work on these projects. So we'll see. I don't know what I can really do as a individual person, but I like to think that the answer is something. I don't know if this sort of technology-centric project I have planned will really make much of a difference. I don't know if any policy advocacy I can do can make much of a difference because, unfortunately, you know, the people spoke in November of last year, and you know, we really elected, although I didn't vote for him, you know, Donald Trump to be the president, and people elected a GOP Congress, and one of the policies they're choosing to enact is to sell off tracts of nature that were held in trust for future generations to be used for logging and strip mining. I don't know what I can do to stop it, but I guess call your reps.